Hello. Hello, everyone. I'm KiKi Liao from the Chengdu, China.
Yeah, so, sorry. We just go live, and let me first introduce you. So we are moving to our last session. We are moving to our last session of Blockchain Day, and one more day, Innovation Day, is ahead. So I'm introducing a big mining panel. So here we have Joseph from ZTech 123. So we have Olga Kochmar from ZioNodes, and we have KiKi Liao from Bosha, and William from Sazmining, right?
Yep.
Thank you, Ivan.
Correct. Perfect. And so, yeah, we can move forward with the panel. You have more than 1 hour. So, yeah, please go ahead. It's your time.
All right. I guess it's my turn. Thank you, Ivan, for inviting us. Thank you for putting together Digital Week Online. It's been a very intense 2 days, like full of knowledge. Thank you for all your efforts bringing together all these amazing panelists. I'm gonna moderate our panel. Basically, we are gonna learn a little bit about mining Bitcoin, about mining Ethereum. Why should we? What are the best investment opportunities? A little bit about the current situation, trends for 2020, and so on. You guys can feel free to jump at any moment. I'm going to introduce myself a little bit, and then you can go introduce yourself. My name, as Ivan said, is Jose. I work at ZioNodes 123, blockchain consulting. We are based in San Francisco and Europe, and basically we accelerate blockchain and other emerging tech projects. We help them with anything from branding, marketing, go-to-market strategy, investors, anything. And we definitely love mining. Mining is one of our favorite industries because it's something real when it comes to blockchain. We all are talking about blockchain all the time, but there are not that many real use cases, and mining is one that someone was telling me the other day. Mining farm is like when you go to a ranch and you smell the cattle shit in the ground. That's the money, right? So it's the same when you are in a farm with all the noise and the smell. That's money. And I was like, oh, I'm gonna use it next time. So that's me. And then I'm gonna let KiKi. You wanna go? You wanna introduce yourself?
Yes.
All right, so go ahead.
Okay. Hello, everyone. Liao from the Chengdu, China, and we are based in Singapore. So nice to meet you, William and Josie and Zonix.
Really nice to meet you. KiKi, you want to introduce a little bit Bosha? Just a little brief introduction about your company.
Our company just based in Singapore and do some charity for the use the technology. So we provide our public chain to do some dApps. So welcome everyone to come to know our company. Thank you.
All right, cool. Olga, do you want to introduce yourself again, or?
Yeah, sure. So so we are a mining operator. So we are currently managing around 15,000 basics. We provide a variety of tools for turnkey mining, for mining operations, for distance management, etc.
Very nice. William, your turn.
Great. Well, I'm with Sazmining Inc. First off, I'd like to thank everyone who's here on the panel with us and the organizers of the event. We're a cryptocurrency mining and consulting firm We also provide turnkey mining solutions. And right now, we're really excited by the opportunities that we're seeing in the market, which I'm sure that we're going to dive into later here. So thanks again for hosting.
Totally. All right, let's go with the first of the topics that I get ready for you guys. Basically, I was reading this amazing piece of news the other day. The money supply in the United States has risen 472% since the 2008 crisis and the Fed started printing money. How sustainable is this for the market? Is this an opportunity for the crypto market as well? Are we learning anything? Do we have any lessons that we have learned about this? Just to warm up, who wants to go first?
I'd be happy to jump in on this. It's actually one of the areas where I think everyone talks about how cryptocurrencies and Bitcoin, it was really born and hit the world stage in 2008. And I think that right now is the first time where we're really seeing how this asset class is going to perform in the midst of a global financial crisis. And it's clear that the Fed and these different central banks are going to print a lot of money and have printed a lot of money. And that is just something that's not necessarily sustainable. And I think that Bitcoin in particular, as a place where people can view it as an uncorrelated area where they can put their wealth, it's uncorrelated to the traditional equities. I think that it's going to perform very well coming out of this crisis, and we're still in the very early stages. We've seen a huge rise since that initial liquidity crisis in March, where Bitcoin dropped to around 4K, but since then it's risen a lot and performed very well. Aside from that initial liquidity crisis.
Yeah, totally. How do you feel? So we are probably more worried because we are here in the United States, William and me. How do you feel about this? Is anyone worrying Hong Kong about the Fed printing money? Like this article said, 472% in 12 years. Do you guys have any opinion?
Yeah, for sure, that has a huge influence on us as well. But yeah, if we talk actually about these the global recession and also the market crash that happened in March, then actually we can see how well Bitcoin has reflected the industry. It means that like once that crash happened and everyone was lack of liquidity, and then everyone was trying to sell whatever assets they have on hand. So, and then we see how Bitcoin has reflected that, even though I think the market was quite healthy at that time and it was like constantly growing, but suddenly it just completely reflected. So it means that now more traditional players are actually holding Bitcoin in their portfolio as an alternative asset. So as an alternative asset. So yeah.
The rule of thumb that I hear from very smart investors here in the Silicon Valley is that you want to have at least 5% of your investment portfolio in crypto or in Bitcoin, depending how bullish they are for. But that's kind of like the rule of thumb: 5%, just in case we don't want to miss it, right? Interesting. Good. All right, we are warming up for tonight. Let's talk a little bit about how is the situation worldwide in terms of mining for Bitcoin, considering the halving 2020, for Ethereum, KiKi, since your company is specialized on mining Ethereum, considering that Ethereum 2.0 is coming. So what's this? How do you guys feel? What's the situation worldwide, considering these two big major events for miners? Who wants to go first?
The mining machine might as well be out because the S RAM grow bigger, so the machine will close when cannot mine S forward. As we all know, S uses a hash consensus algorithm, the memory intensive algorithm not only requires a lot of computer power, but also consumes a lot of memory. Since the attack in cache algorithm will generate DH files and store them in the individual memory. Each block will generate a new DH file, and this file needs to contain the encrypted information of all precious blocks. So the DH file will become larger and larger, increasing year by year. Therefore, to mine as the graphics card memory must be larger than the current DH file size. When a new mining machine starts mining, it can still be used the beginning. After running for a period of time, it will be eliminated because of insufficient memory.
All right. So
I
because Ethereum uses Ethash consensus algorithm, you say that is like a memory intensive, right? So it's slightly different than mining Bitcoin, obviously. How do you feel about 2020? How do you feel, KiKi, about this current year? Like what is your impression about this year? Are you feeling like if finally they release Ethereum 2.0, what are you guys, do you have a plan B?
This year we think it must be a very nice year. So we will have our public chain and to open it to let other mine workers to have our coin. So we are very confident about this year.
Nice, good to hear. It's always good to hear. William, what's your feeling? Like you also do a lot of consulting, right? Have you feel that halving 2020 has been doing a little bit of free marketing for you guys in terms of people getting way more interested on mining Bitcoin? And how do you feel about like this year, 2020?
Yeah, well, to address the first part of that, I think that as a whole, the halving draws in a lot of attention. So there's a lot of articles being released, a lot of people talking about it, which overall I believe is great for the industry. But aside from just the halving, you have a lot of really great organizations currently being built, not only in the mining space. Actually, in the talk before, they had addressed a lot of the surrounding infrastructure in regards to the hedging options, financial instruments that allow you to keep long exposure to Bitcoin by taking out USD loans to cover your ongoing electricity bills. And tying this all back, as miners were directly affected by the halving, it all of a sudden is it makes a big difference if you have 5 Bitcoins that are selling at $8,000 and you used to be producing a certain amount, and then that amount gets cut virtually in half. That directly affects your bottom line. But overall, I think that it's healthy for the industry. It forces innovation. It forces miners to become more creative. And I think that overall, we've seen in the past the halving as a great benchmarking tool over time for the industry. And I think that at this particular point in time, we're going to see, and we've already begun to see, a lot of the miners who might not have been quite as efficient start to have some problems. And I think that that's going to take some time to play out within the marketplace. But overall, I think that the trends are great for the industry. And I think that overall, globally, this is going to be a very, very big year, not only for mining, but also for Bitcoin.
Nice. Yeah, I was reading also revenue for miners worldwide has fallen almost in half. Meaning, I like what you just said. It's healthy for the industry. It's gonna foster innovation. The good professional companies are gonna stay in the game. The wishy-washy companies, you know, they will be out for sure. The companies that don't do the right strategy, the right planning, how they apply timing is so important, timing and strategy when it comes to mining, right? Yeah, Olga, this question is for you. How are you at ZioNodes dealing with the BTC halving? Do you feel it could be turned into an opportunity for ZioNodes?
Well, yeah, I think that's well, we already received lots of inquiries that people are going to well, to actually to put their money into mining after halving. They were just waiting for like more than months, just waiting what will happen eventually. And well, actually having that hash rate drops, well, actually we have opportunity to mine more, right? Although the reward is decreased. Yeah, so I think that we still need to find that balance. We still need to figure out what is the best strategy. But yeah, I think that's there these the I'm quite bullish right now, and I think the same is from the same situation as with our clients.
All right, we are all quite bullish here. I like it. I like it. Let's see. Talking about it. Talking about getting bullish. If let's say someone that has been flirting with crypto maybe bought something like a no professional investors, but they have been always curious and they have a few $1,000s and they don't want to go to Coinbase and buy just some Bitcoin, right? They want to learn, because I realize some investors get into mining because they are so curious about technology, they want to learn at the same time they invest. Which are the three most important things to know, William, when investing in mining Bitcoin for you?
Yeah, well, initially, and this is a really important point that's known a lot to the broader public, even people who aren't necessarily in mining, but it is a huge key, is just your electricity cost. It makes a huge difference between all miners. It's an initial differentiator between a regular, everyday hobbyist miner who might not have the ability to go in and negotiate with the energy companies versus a large-scale miner who's going and getting behind the meter pricing and getting cheap electricity. So initially, that's a very, very important consideration. Just as important, I would rate it as the tied for first, potentially second, is just your ongoing operations. And this is really referring to your uptime of your machines. So just for simple numbers, let's say you have 100 machines running. When you're running your calculations and forecasting how profitable your mine's going to be, when you're typing it into the calculator, it's assuming an uptime of 100% in those calculators that people use online. But there are everyday operations where if you implement the proper protocols for mining, you're going to maintain near perfect uptime. And that's the goal. And going back to hosting or finding the right hosting provider, it's extremely important that you understand how much hash you should be getting out of the machines that you purchase and making sure that you're maintaining that uptime. Because if you put in that capital to purchase those miners, you need to make sure that they're hashing as much as possible, so you're earning the amount of BTC that you're expecting or you're forecasting. And so that's one of the things that at Sazmining we really focus on, is making sure that we're prolonging the longevity of the equipment as well as maintaining high uptime. And that's really the third piece right there, is aside from the uptime, the longevity of that equipment. So if you're purchasing, in that example, of 100 miners, they're going to be running all the time and there could potentially be failures. And you want to make sure you're doing everything in your power to make sure that those machines don't break down and that you're giving them an environment that allows them to continue to run optimally. And one of the common things in the industry that we've seen companies run into issues with is just maintaining that consistent temperature environment within their design, whether it be a building or a shipping container. Because if you have very large temperature deltas or you have overheating within the mining environment, then those chips are more susceptible to breaking. So just going back to the original point, it's energy, low cost energy, uptime, making sure that you're consistently keeping those machines online, and then equipment longevity, and making sure that if you're purchasing 100 miners, after 3 years, you're still going to have 100 miners, or at least high 90% miners, so you can make as much Bitcoin as possible over that time. And if you do that, I think that it makes much more sense to participate in the mining side versus going and just purchasing BTC. Of course, there are many variables like the total network hash and the price of Bitcoin at the time where you're buying in versus the hardware. But done right, mining is a huge opportunity for the broader investment community who's interested in this particular asset or this particular sector. And I think that there are some great companies out there that give people the opportunity to get involved.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah. So yeah, I do agree actually with William, because I think climate and is very important, and also the way you maintain equipment. It actually also relates to GPU, which is mentioned, the Ethereum mining. So actually, for example, GPUs are much harder to, there's the process of maintenance is much more sophisticated than that of ASICs, because well, GPUs are usually overlocked, and the memory card, and also the GPU itself, the chipset, is not actually processing very well if you are overlocking constantly. And then and some of us are trying, to increase the return, and then constantly these. So of course it has a very negative, very bad impact on the technicals of miners. So yeah, we need to be careful with that. And for example, we have some kind of tool for so on our dashboard, then basically you can just click and the miners will be overlocked itself. But we do suggest don't do that yourself if you don't understand how it works, because it may actually just result in the drop of the hash rate, or we need to lower the consumption, the electricity, and we need to lower. So well, there are actually different a variety of tricks with that. So we need to be careful. And also I think that climate is very important, and so we need to consider the locations which are not just in the, say, there is lower temperature, but that should be the proper cooling system. And as we all know that some, like for example, for S9, A6, there are lots of companies and lots of colocations and all those provided, and all those mining providers who are offering the immersion cooling. So basically you're putting the miner into the certain liquid. So it's also a good way to maintain equipment and lower lower the temperature. So so there are also different tricks with keeping the appropriate temperature. But of course, I think the most important in that we need to consider the locations with the really better climate. So it should be dry there, so not humid, not that much humid, and better if constantly, like annually, is lower temperature there.
How important is the human factor, having the right staff operating? How important is it?
Yeah, so probably I'll answer that question. So so of course better if you have the proper technical tools and different software firmware that you can use, so you can instantly receive any alerts if something happened. Or for example, actually ASIC itself has that kind of a tool that, for example, if the temperature is too low, it can just reboot itself, right? But actually sometimes it doesn't work, and the H miner is assembled in not like 100% similar way. So so we need to utilize both. We need to combine both the human factor, the technical innovations, and for sure human factor is important when it comes to Yeah, well, basically that should be the job of the in-house team, which are monitoring the processes on the location.
Very nice. William, what about you? What do you think? How important is the human component on taking care of, I mean, talking about longevity and control the environment, keep it constant?
Yeah. Well, I think that having the proper protocols in place is very, very important. I wouldn't do the whole process justice without at least name dropping our chief operating officer. Brian Snyder is someone who completely understands the proper ways and protocols to set up and run these different types of facilities to make it so you can continuously maintain that high level of uptime and assign work where there are easy processes in place that allow people to maintain the proper mining environment and make it so it's easy to learn. So we can put in less technical or less high level sophisticated people within the facilities to maintain those facilities and still be able to maintain those extremely high uptimes.
Yeah, totally. So it is possible. You don't have to be like, it is easy like for companies like you to get the right staff operating without spending that much money on getting there, or the engineers and so on. Once you set it up, it's easy to pass the torch, right?
Yeah, exactly. So for every single site that we're doing, in designing the actual plan and assessing each of those sites, we have our top level executives on those sites and understanding the logistics, the power source, the overall climate, what sort of challenges might be faced in setting up that particular operation. And then once that's in place, there are a particular set of protocols that are constant within any type of mining facility, and those will be set in place. And you can find people in local areas to carry out particular types of work. And there are certain types of parts of the setup and the ongoing operations where you might have to have someone who's on your payroll full time that would go and just consistently be operating and managing these different sites. But it's all with that goal of maintaining proper mining environments for the client or for yourself.
Yeah. KiKi, what about you? What do you think? Which are the 3 most important things to know when you are investing in mining Ethereum? The 3 most important things for you. Let's say you have to convince William, Olga, and myself to invest with you, with Bosha, on Ethereum. Which are the 3 most important things we need to know?
I have told you before. So I think I want to talk from the mining machine, such as Atis. So the Atis machine, say the Atis machine, which can also mine other tokens such as Ethic and Pool Ethic. Although these mining machines have been limited, there are many coins such as Ethic and Pool. What can be mined with these machines? Taking Pool as an example, Pulsar Pool is developed based the bottom layer of the S using the same hash algorithm, which also applicable to the mining of the S mining machine. However, due to the small computing power competition, the mining machine admitted in the S can be reused by Pool. So we can use the machine. So that's what I want to talk.
reuse. All right, I think I got reuse your devices to mine Ethereum Classic, for example. Is that what you said? And pool, right? All right.
Yes.
All right, cool. Thank you, Olga. I mean, thank you, KiKi. Olga, this one goes for you. Let's talk about the biggest misconceptions about the mining industry. Like, for example, do you tell to your mom what you do for a living? Does your mom knows that you are a CEO of a mining company?
Well, as for misconceptions, I'm not sure. Maybe any other opinions from the panel?
Like, William, what about you? Like, when you go out with your friends and the new guy asks you, what do you do for a living? And you tell them what you do for a living, what's the reaction? Do they think like what's going on there?
Yeah, well, I would say that it depends on how involved that particular friend is in the crypto space, but I've heard some pretty crazy things across the whole spectrum. But I would say from the misconception of, let's say that you're a person that understands crypto, you understand mining, how the process works, but you don't live in that world. You're not in the mining world 24/7. You're not part of a mining company. I would say for those people, one of the common misconceptions, and it's going to be interesting considering the answer I gave to the last question on the 3 most important things when investing. But the misconception really is that energy cost isn't everything. And I think that that's important to understand. It's a huge factor. It's definitely in the top 3, but most people, when they look at mining, they put the energy cost as how you're going to completely assess a mining operation. And it's really so much more than just that. It really comes down to your operational approach and how you're maintaining that longevity of the equipment. As Olga had mentioned earlier, she had talked about liquid cooling, which is actually a great way to maintain a proper mining environment. It lowers the temperature delta, allows you to keep a more consistent temperature for the miners and a cooler temperature. And that's very important for the longevity of those chips and keeping high uptime. So I would say that that it would be the energy cost. It's not everything. It's very important, but just as important, you want to make sure that you have very good operations. And then outside of just the crypto world and the crypto universe, heard all sorts of things. There's still people out there that think Bitcoin is only used by people for illegal activities, which is fairly well proven to not be the case. But in particular on the mining side, we're looking at energy, and it's definitely an important consideration, but not the end all be all.
Yeah. So, but they don't think you are a vampire that goes around sucking energy from right? Like they understand like what you do. They understand like you are validating transaction and making it happen.
Yeah, well, that's another area where I think that having broader public awareness, and as the industry continues to mature, there are going to be a lot of these misconceptions corrected within the media and in the press. One of the common things is talking about mining and how damaging it is to the environment, which definitely it consumes energy, but it's not necessarily a zero-sum game in the sense that you're providing what I would say is, from a mining perspective, the backbone to a completely different way. I look at it as a financial revolution. It's the beginnings of and the birth of a decentralized type financial system that's running in parallel to the financial system that everyone in the world is used to operating in, which I refer to as the central banking global financial system. And this is really a way that I think is going to benefit a lot of people who, for example, might be in countries where their currencies have been devalued. We've seen huge run-ups in the price of Bitcoin and bull runs that have have had a catalyst of a country going through hyperinflation. We saw
Like
what happened in Venezuela.
Yeah.
You know, Lebanon was another one very recently. You saw Argentina, Cyprus back in 2013. These all, you saw the citizens trying to protect their wealth and some of that value accruing into the Bitcoin decentralized financial system out of the traditional fiat financial system. And so I think that that's another very important consideration, and one of the ways that this industry is going to continue to progress over time.
Yeah, I agree. I'm writing now, writing down here a few notes, and I get all the time like electricity cost. Olga, how does ZioNodes secure the best electricity rates? How do you guys look for like the lower cost energy sources? Why did you decide the locations? Is just based on electricity cost? Is there any other factors important when you guys decided to pick those particular locations?
Yeah, sure. So yeah, as William mentioned, that the electricity cost is one of that variable, one of the aspects that we should definitely consider. And actually that is quite interesting that still having the colocation mining, we're still having cloud mining where the cost for electricity are quite different. So like usually if you're engaged in colocation mining, that's the average prices, which can still generate good revenue, are it's about 5.5 cents. And then still is like, we see there are so many cloud mining platforms which are offering around 8 cents. And actually, if you're trying to mine at home, like for example, in the CIS region, there are so many places which are actually having very low electricity costs, and but there is not enough capacity, of course. So yeah, there are different cases, but of course we need to try to source for better, for cheaper electricity. Depends on what's our capacity.
Yeah, you are talking about colocation versus cloud mining.
Yeah,
right?
so I mean that there is still. Yeah.
Go for it. Are you? Could you tell for someone who is not an expert, like the big difference, maybe pros and cons of colocation versus cloud mining? Why ZioNodes is focused right now more on colocation? What's the business reason behind it?
Yeah, sure. So I think that that now mining becomes more institutional rather than retail. So basically, if you're investing in mining, then you wanna make it transparent. So, and if you're choosing the cloud mining alternative, then actually you're just purchasing a contract. So you're not involved in the real mining operations. You cannot trace, like you cannot just pull yourself. You're not really the operator. You're not the miner. You're just like investing on something, buying something, right? So yeah, so it's actually, I think it's just kind of a game, it's not something real. And and if you're really trying to make the target investment and get the real return, that you should definitely consider colocation rather than cloud mining. So yeah, well, actually we talk about the fact that we are now become more like institutional rather than retail, as it was before when the hash rate was too low and we could still mine and everything was cheaper. Yeah.
All right. What about you, William? From your perspective here in the United States, how is the sentiment of the investor in mining Bitcoin? Are they more pro colocation or they are more into cloud mining?
Yeah, well, I think that the overall view that Olga just laid out is correct. I think that Overall, we've seen the space becoming a lot more institutionalized. If you're getting in, at least at Sazmining, we've been working with much larger companies. So our ideal client is not necessarily a colocation or cloud mining, purchasing a cloud mining contract, but they're actually coming in on large scale projects with us. So we're going out, we're negotiating very cheap electricity rates. To your point from earlier, actually, to do that, we'll go and model out the financials of the business model for the financials for the business model of the energy company, to understand how much margin is there to be split up between us and their particular site. And we're looking to get into conversations with energy companies that have stranded power assets. And the reason why we do that is because when they have these stranded power assets, they're already being written off as a loss or not being utilized by the energy company. So what we do is we come in and we find an energy company with these stranded power assets and find a way to utilize them specifically for mining. And then once we are in that negotiation, we understand how much additional money we can make for the energy companies or our clients. And then we'll get very, very cheap, very, very competitive, top-notch electricity rates. And then outside of that, we'll put all the processes and procedures in place to actually get that site up and through development to make sure that it's an extremely successful project. And so those are the types of clients that we're looking to work with, is for people who have an understanding of the space or want to get involved, and we bring them in with us to actually get in at the behind the meter pricing and at the partnership level pricing for the hardware and for the electricity. And what we've seen, and one of the things that we're currently trying to do, is really bridge that gap and show people that this is a reliable way that they can drive revenues. And it's proven and been proven since the start of the industry. And when done right, there are extremely, extremely good financials and fundamentals to the business model. And that's really what it all comes down to if you want to make it in this industry, and if you want to be a very profitable company, which many of these energy companies are seeing as a great way to really, especially in this environment, improve their bottom line profitability.
All right.
I think that is quite interesting. And actually, what I just mentioned about cloud mining, we see that there are now more and more requests from different entities who want to actually, it's actually can be called cloud mining, because they want to just purchase hash rate. So they don't want to like deal with miners. They just want a contract that is saying that I'm purchasing hash rate. So, and most of these, they're hedge funds who are actually trying to, in this way, through mining, through purchasing those kind of contracts, they want to acquire actually Bitcoin at a discount to spot prices. So there is, I think, also one of the trends currently.
Yeah, at the end of the day, it's about trying to get your Bitcoins at the most affordable, at the best price you can, right?
Correct, absolutely.
All right, let's talking about halving 2020 and talking about equipment and asics and KiKi. This one goes for you. What are the top Ethereum mining machines in the market? What are the equipment that you guys purchase or that you guys are using right now? I think your microphone is muted. Yeah.
Just like GTX 10 V8 and Shindong A10, RTX 2080, and P104 ASIC. There are about 3 kinds of the ASIC mining machines on the market. Many GPU,
how many? KiKi, did you say 30? 30, 30?
30. 30.
Oh, wow, I didn't know there are so many. Okay.
Yeah. many GPU, including TX, GTX 10V8, Xingdong A10, RTX 2080, P104. However, some earlier news said that by the end of the December 2020, the DH files will reach 4G. That is to say, the existing 4G video card can no longer be mined. It is estimated by the end of the November or December, such as mining
by the end of the year.
Mining machines.
And then,
yeah.
So then you are gonna sell those
maybe,
to people who want to mine Ethereum Classic, or you just go and start mining Ethereum Classic? What's is there a big market to mine?
Maybe.
So all right, yeah, you guys gotta do something with those devices. We have 13 more minutes, and I have here like a few more questions that I want to ask you. For example, this is always how can miners protect themselves? For you guys were talking before about how the hash rate when it raises, how difficult it is for you guys to be profitable. How do you guys protect your from the rising hash rate difficulty? William, how do you guys advise also your companies to do so?
Yeah, well, just as a quick overview, everyone here on this panel knows the fundamentals of the protocol, but overall, the halving just occurred. We went from roughly 12.5 Bitcoin being paid out to the network about every 10 minutes down to 6.25 Bitcoin being paid out for that equivalent block reward. And so what that does is it changes the economics for all of the miners who are operating on the network. And we saw many miners have to drop off because they were no longer profitable. So if you are in that bottom tier in terms of the cost to produce a Bitcoin, then you're insulated from those types of price declines, but also rising hash rate within the network. So the number one way to truly insulate your risk from an operations standpoint is to make sure that you have that cheap electricity, you have that cheap equipment purchases, and you have the high uptime, and you'll be set from the operations side. But if you even want to further protect yourself, it was talked about in the talk before this, but it is a huge opportunity, is just hedging and different options. You have hash rate hedging opportunities that you can go and utilize, and then also just traditionally futures or options on Bitcoin. I mean, a very common one that's used in the traditional commodities markets is a put option, which is extremely beneficial for a miner in the sense that if you're mining a certain amount of Bitcoin and you know that in 6 months you're going to have mined X number of Bitcoin, then you can lock in those future gains for the coins that haven't even yet been mined by going and putting a certain put option or buying a certain put option on the market. So for example, let's say that the price of Bitcoin is at 8,800 or 9,000, and you can lock in that price in the future. If the price shoots up, then you lost some money up front by paying for that option to sell at $9,000 in the future. But if the price tanks and you have the option to sell all that Bitcoin at $9,000, then your operations are protected. And that's another way that you can protect yourself from some sort of price change, as well as whatever happens in the hash rate. As we know, the hash rate and the price are tied together, and there's an ebb and flow between the two. But overall, if you're protecting your cash flow and you're cheap enough from an operations standpoint to consistently be able to operate at some sort of profit and cover all of your overhead, then you're going to do very, very well as a miner, and you're going to consistently be able to stay in the market and earn Bitcoin and continue to get long-term exposure, which it seems like a lot of other people on the panel are very bullish on the future of blockchain and crypto, and particularly Bitcoin. And if you can maintain that long-term exposure, when you go through those huge bull runs, you're going to perform very, very well.
Correct.
I think these are really good points mentioned by William. So I also think that in terms of like hedging and difficulty increasing and so on. So I think it all depends on your model. That once you make a decision to purchase this kind of equipment of certain terahash, and you consider the market situation, whether it's bear bull market, then you see how stable or like what are the fluctuations of the hash rate, and yeah, of course you do need to do some calculations on the hash rate and see what was the historical rate like past 1 month or 1 week. And so you need to consider micro and macro situation, and then and make of course predictions, and then you see where is market turns bullish, bear, then you utilize all the existing tools currently in the market. You either short Bitcoins this bear market, or you in terms of difficulty, then you just use the hash rate futures.
Yeah. Olga, before we run out of time, I want to talk a little bit about hardware. Basically, like right now, during 2020, or considering especially, post halving 2020, what are the top buy asics that right now people are like asking you to buy for you guys doing their colocation? What models do you guys have in your colocation facility? Can you also how important is, I guess it's super important, the electricity cost, right? Like considering which equipments are still valid and are gonna still valid during 2020.
Yeah, so I think there are currently like top 3 manufacturers. So I would say the most profitable now is Whatsminer, then Bitmain, and then we also we can consider InnoSilicon. But actually, even though there is a high hash rate, we also need to consider what is the electricity consumption for that miner, and whether how hard it is to maintain it, and like any technical issues. So I would say that most actually still tend to buy Bit miners, and and like most of miners that we have now are T17 and also S17. And yeah, as for S19, we haven't received so many orders right now. And I think that's good miner. It doesn't mean that is the newest one and the most expensive one. I think so. You need to find that balance between the current price. So you need to understand what is the cost now for terahash in compared to like last month, 2 months ago, and then make a decision which miner is better, right? So yeah, so I think that mostly is still Antminer, T17, S17.
What about you, William? What do you think? What's your favorite?
Well, I actually agree with what Olga just said. I really like the Bitmains and the Whatsminers, and that is what we at Sazmining have become most comfortable with, at least from an operations point of view. Our chief operating officer and our workflow is used to working with and through those companies. So those are the miners that we tend to stick with. It all also comes down to what your electricity cost is, of course, and the maintenance and what you feel comfortable operating with. And those are the 2 brands that we seem to have come to get accustomed to using, and we have seen very good results with those machines.
What about Canon? We had the Canon team presenting right before Olga. What about Canon? Is it how do you guys feel about it?
Well, I cannot say that much about Canon because we mostly work with end miners, Yeah, but yeah, there is another thing I wanted to mention is that actually some of the miners they prefer even secondhand equipment actually because it's cheaper. And as I mentioned, that if you maintain it in a proper way, that it can last for like up to 3 years freely. And then so there are different options, and even like for S15 and sometimes it's secondhand T17, so it's much cheaper, so that you can still mine and then you can overlock it, and then given that cheap miners, you can actually pay back faster.
All right, really cool. We're running out of time, so for the last minute, do you guys want to just go ahead and let me know why should I hire you guys at ZioNodes or hire you guys at Sazmining or at Bosha, and why should I also tell to my friends, hey, last night I was moderating this debate with these amazing mining companies, and I believe you should consider to invest at least a little part of your portfolio in mining operations. Who wants to break the ice?
I'll go ahead. So
right.
as I'd mentioned earlier, I'm with Sazmining Inc. And I think that the real key that we've actually touched on very well through the different questions that you've asked is it really comes down to efficiency and having well-run operations as well as cheap electricity. And that really is at Sazmining what we pride ourselves on, and what we focus on is getting those the cheapest possible electric rates as possible, and also making sure that you're getting as much hash as you possibly can out of those machines. And overall, all these factors line up to increase the amount of Bitcoin that you're mining, decrease your overall operational costs over time, and make sure that if you work on a project with us, that it turns out very well and it makes you a lot of money. And so again, if you're an institutional investor, you're a large energy company or any energy company with excess power capacity and interested in getting involved in cryptocurrency mining, please reach out. We'd love to talk with you, get an overview of your particular project, your site, and then get you set up in mining in no time.
Nice. All right. Olga, why should I tell my friends tomorrow what I was doing today and why they should put some money on ZioNodes?
Well, firstly, I would just, because we don't have that much time, so I would just to say thanks a lot again for organizing such a conference, and that was a really great panel discussion with all of you guys here. In terms of ZioNodes, of course, we're happy to help. So reach out if you have any doubts, questions, you want to invest, or you're just enthusiast.
All right, Ivan, it's almost 10:20 here in San Francisco. Do you have fun?
Yeah, that's great. That's great. So we are running across the globe. So yeah, for some people it's night. For some people it's just like early morning. For me, it's almost 3:20 p.m. So yeah. And yeah, guys, thank you so much for participating and for this amazing panel. So a lot of insights and thinking. So, and I hope it will be very valuable for our audience. So thank you so much for organizing this panel.
Thank you, everyone, and
Thanks,
have a good night.
See you.